Thanks to our friends over at Game.press for providing a copy of this game for review purposes. Hello, this is Tim at Wembembo on everything as a part of the Game Club pod, and I'm back with another DLC, this time looking at the game Temtem. Temtem launched on January 21st, 2020 and was developed by Crema, published by Humble Bundle, and is available on PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch, Microsoft Windows, Steam, and Xbox Series X and S. I did my playthrough on the Steam Deck. I would like to know that it didn't have any impact on performance. The game ran fine. To read through the synopsis, Temtem is an online creature collection adventure. Tame over 165 creatures across 7 vibrant islands, battle other tamers, tackle mythical lairs, chase Luma and Umbra variants, and breed your favourite Tems. With friends by your side, dive into a colourful monster catching adventure. So Temtem up! I put a few hours into Temtem, and as a Pokemon fan, I thought I would enjoy my time with this more than I actually did. Just putting out there now that the game clearly draws a lot from Pokemon, and ignoring that as an inspiration would be extremely difficult to do so. It's not a copy and paste. There are some things that Temtem does very differently, but it knows its demographic, but it knows its target demographic, often to a fault. There are going to be direct comparisons. If the devs are okay with leaning on the formula to this extent, they should be okay with me comparing their work to that formula. Temtem has a creatable character setting out on their adventure on Apprentice Day, where you meet up with your rival and the town professor to select one of 3 Temtems as your starter, each with different elements that basically boil down to rock, paper, scissors. You then set out on an adventure to assist NPCs in towns, granting you access to the town dojo in order to fight the dojo master. Travel across the land, catching Temtems by battling them to wear down their health and capturing them in a card as you build your team. And once you beat all 8 dojos, each one with a different focus on different elements, you then go on into the post-game, which involves fighting other players, rematching dojo masters, or you can take on one of the 4 arch tamers. If this gameplay loop sounds at all familiar, you've most likely heard of Pokemon. This is the core loop for almost every Pokemon game, even down to the number of challenges across the map. Not to say that Pokemon owns the RPG genre, but it feels like Temtem is aimed at people who are either Pokemon fans looking for something new, or have an interest in Pokemon but for some reason have never played a Pokemon game across the franchise's 25-year history in any capacity. I mentioned that there are different elemental types that the Temtems have. In Pokemon, the starters, generally speaking, are fire, water, and grass, and this makes sense. It's a rock, paper, scissors game, as water beats fire, fire beats grass, and grass beats water. This is all intuitive enough for a beginner to grasp, but Temtem has, for its starters, Crystal type, Melee type, and Mental type. I've had to look up a type chart to understand what the RPS kind of looks like here, and here's what I've found. Crystal beats Mental, Mental beats Melee, and Melee beats Crystal. It's an RPS, sure, but 1/3 of the triangle, it just isn't intuitive, at least to me. I understand the idea of brains over brawn, hence Mental beating Melee, but what's the connection between brawn and Crystal, or Crystal and brains? For the most part, there are analogues for each Pokemon type in Temtem, but there's also some new types, like Digital type Temtems, which only have one weakness when defending in the form of Toxic type. If you can find the connection there, please let me know. And they have absolutely no disadvantages when attacking any other type. This makes it a really unga-bunga group, as the only time you need to think about changing Temtem in this specific scenario is if there's a Toxic type in play. And even then, Toxic types have far more disadvantages on attack than advantages, and they also have far more disadvantages on attack than any other type. To me, it just doesn't seem balanced. As a result of this, battles with wild Temtems and trainers can often come off as frustrating due to the lack of intuition when trying to work with countering types, and by extension it makes the actual disadvantages and advantages seemingly arbitrary. Obviously it's not arbitrary, I'm looking at a chart as I write this detailing the matchups, but the connections between those types are tenuous at best, and it makes it feel random. My last major gripe with the game is the human models. They look like they were sourced straight out of the My Sims games on Wii, if anyone remembers that. For those who don't, imagine if EA wanted to use Nintendo's Miis in a game, Nintendo said no, and EA said fine, we'll make our own. They look bad, in my opinion. But now that I've got the major negatives out the way, I think it's only fair that I look to some of the things that I actually really appreciate about Temtem. Each of the battles are handled by you having 2 Temtem out on the battle at any one time, regardless if you're fighting one wild Temtem or a trainer with 2 or more. I actually think this is pretty good. It creates team synergies, allows for unique strategies, and it also lets you see more monsters while you're out and about fighting. I also noted that the player models looked terrible earlier, but what's actually pretty good here is the amount of customization options available to the player. This is often showcased by other players being visible in the world as they roam around with their Temtems and talk to NPCs, which in turn makes the world feel more populated. Seeing a global chat for all players negotiating trades, handling collectibles, it shows that there's an active player base and there's plenty of people who are invested in the game. And the one last major difference I really appreciated, in Pokemon, each move has its own set of power points, or PP if you might have seen them in the older games, limiting how many times that particular move can be used before a Pokemon needs to rest or if you restore it using an elixir. In Temtem, instead of having the stamina per move, the stamina is actually tied to the Temtem itself, with more powerful moves taking up more stamina. When the stamina hits 0, there's actually nothing stopping you from continuing to use the powerful moves, but the Temtem will be hurt by being overexerted. And as a result, this becomes a game of balancing resources and knowing when to take turns and when you may want to take the opportunity to rest. Unfortunately, I think that's about where my positives end. It's a really weird situation, Temtem. Everything about this says I should enjoy it, but I kept thinking to myself that I'd rather just be playing Pokemon. Did I enjoy it? No, not really. And it's a shame, because I really wanted to. Do I recommend it? If you're in the really niche demographic of having had an interest in Pokemon, but you've never played it, and you're on anything but a Nintendo system, and you're also being restricted by a budget, then go for it. To the game's credit, it is cheaper than a Pokemon title, but to me, it's cheaper for a reason. I'm Tim, at Wembembo on everything, and I'll see you next time.